We have yet another colorful week full of planetary transits. In this week's astrology, Venus shifts into Virgo, giving us a nudge to be more discerning in our relationships. Jupiter and Pluto will make a configuration that they haven't since 2015. Also, the Sun and Venus will be making the most alignments over these next 7 days, aiding us in working on ego issues, self-expression, self-esteem, love, and finances. Even though we've got tense energies this week, the vibes on the graph are actually pretty pleasant. Social vibes will be present throughout the entire week and intersect psychic and mental vibes until the 7th. Also, it will intersect good luck energy until about the 8th. Because of all of these tenors, we'll be able to integrate our rational versus our intuitive mind more easier than typical, allowing us to solve linear and abstract problems like a pro. So this is going to be one of those weeks where we're able to actually make sense of complexities, whether we're using our left brain or our right brain. And some of this could be through just feeling more intuitively guided to an answer. Some of it could just be that we're able to understand intricacies better than we typically do. On top of that, some of this good luck energy could help us in terms of taking some risks that we normally wouldn't take. Even though this week has some weird stuff where, we need to be mindful of the risks we're taking, there is certain energy that can mitigate taking a chance on something that, again, we typically don't pursue. Also with these energies, we'll have an exaggerated need to mingle because we're craving adventure. This also mixes in with the family and friends energy that's going to be popping up from the 8th all the way to the 10th. Again, even though we have the harsher vibes, the need to mingle with others is going to be very prevalent. So there's just a need to get together with loved ones and just enjoy ourselves and let our hair down. But either way, the first full week of August is going to be interesting. Let's look at these next bunch of days and see what we can expect. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. Also, if you're looking for a natal chart reading or intuitive coaching, the links will be in the description box below. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. The link will be in the description box below as well. If you needed an excuse to take gingerly steps in your love life, finances, and close relationships, then you're in luck. Venus is entering Virgo on the 5th. That being said, as we leave the Leo approach that's passionate and open-hearted in its expression, we shift to a slower roll and choosy approach when it comes down to our love life, finances, and anything to do with our close relationships. So we're shifting into a more contained version of Venus. Virgo energy is about sifting through the unsightly parts of the wheat to ensure that we're picking the right types of grains, the grains that are perfection. And so a combination like this helps us be more selective about who and what we're choosing so that it's meeting our standards, which is very necessary in life. However, this puts Venus and Virgo in a position called fall in astrology. And what that means is, in essential dignities in astrology, we have specific combinations that either fit like a glove, and some may have some issues when it comes down to being paired with a planet. So when Venus is paired with Virgo, a planet that happens to be easygoing and about losing yourself and getting swept away in romance and enjoyment, it can run into some snags while it's assigned to Virgo. One of the other things is Virgo happens to be the opposite of Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces, which is the polar opposite of Virgo. And when Venus is in Pisces, it does extremely well. It's not to say that that doesn't run into snags too, but it definitely has more of freedom to lose itself and get swept away and not care about all the little details that might be going on in any Venusian situations. But just because Venus is in Virgo and transiting through Virgo, it doesn't mean that we're going to have an awful time. It doesn't mean it's going to be the worst of times. It just means that it can run into some snags and there can be some contradictions that end up occurring while this transit is happening. And furthermore, I feel that this is a lovely transit, and I feel like it's an actually nice Venus to have, more or less because some of us don't take the time out to sit back and scrutinize situations that we probably should be scrutinizing. Like the thought of looking at everything with rose-colored glasses, or giving someone the benefit of the doubt, or letting certain scenarios roll off your back sounds nice. However, there are situations in life where that just is not possible, and you have to find a balance between seeing things for what they are versus living in a fairy tale about something that's not realistic, nor is it healthy for you. So I do admire this Virgo for helping us in terms of just using discernment when it comes to love, money, other situations, and our close relationships. So this could be a time where we take a moment to slow down and form a more realistic perspective when it comes down to these situations. When you think about it, when it comes down to our love lives, it's crucial to qualify someone. And I say that because just because someone's attractive doesn't mean that this is the person for us, doesn't mean that this is our soulmate. Just because there's chemistry there, it doesn't mean that this is someone that we should be with. With job scenarios, just because it makes us a ton of money doesn't mean it's the career for us. Or a possible financial opportunity, sometimes we have to suss those things out as well, because it may be too good to be true and it may end up being a scam. So Venus and Virgo energy helps us do these things in these areas. So a pairing like this helps us sift through the trappings of situations that could be problematic in the long run. Coming back to love life, this could be a time to be choosier than what we are instead of falling into the trappings of like a rom-com. Over this period, you may feel like you're more observant than typical, leading to taking a step back and watching behaviors in certain situations just to assess if it's a right situation for you. So rather than giving someone the benefit of the doubt, this could be a period where you're realizing it needs to be earned and you need to see some proof that this person is going to be on the up and up for you. And if they're free of red flags, then you've got the green light to go with them. So this is why using this type of energy is essential for vetting the right types of people. Of course, for those who are in relationships, this may be a time to scrutinize what could be improved in your relationship. Virgo is about self-improvement, so this could be a time where we're looking to enhance our relationship by polishing up some of the unsightly things that might be going on. And this doesn't have to be chaotic or anything like that, but it could be as well. And if it is, this might be a time where you're realizing this is no longer a healthy situation for you and you're seeing all the details for what they are, rather than sweeping them under the rug. Romantically, another thing this does for us is we get a self-esteem boost from doing nice things for those who matter. This could also be our close relationships, but in a romantic sense, this might be a time to be thoughtful. This might be a time where we're feeling more activated through the love language of acts of service. So it could be a time of thinking about how we can be useful in our relationship, or starting to get that from our partner or whoever we're dating, where they're stepping up by doing the little things for us. Another thing with this energy is it can help us crave getting back into some sort of healthy routine for ourselves. So we might find enjoyment for getting back into some sort of regimen, getting back on track when it comes down to our schedule, any type of self-improvement and personal growth. Also, we might feel like we're in the mood to clean up our diet. This is one of the less indulgent Venuses, even though it happens to be an earth sign, and earth signs are about consumption. However, in this one, we tend to lean on the more healthier side when it comes down to what we're consuming in our body. So this might be a time to start thinking of a plan to get back on track when it comes down to that, especially if you fell off the rails during the summertime, which we are still in summer, but sometimes that just happens. Summertime can be a very indulgent time. Everyone thinks winter when it comes down to overindulgence, but that really happens in the summer as well, with all the booze and other summer treats that we like to indulge on. Another thing with this pairing is Venus is how we adorn ourselves. It's how we splurge on ourselves. And so combined with Virgo, we might be looking to polish up our wardrobe and look more pristine. Of course, under this energy, shopping sprees aren't as prevalent. However, this could be a time where you decide to make a purchase or two on someone that's really going to perfect the way you look, or more or less make some conscious choices and buy the things that you can use rather than something that's wasteful. And it could also be a time where it's easier to find bargains more than typical. And with Virgo's eye for style and detail, you might find a hidden gem on a rack. So this could be a time to find a $200, $300 item that's marked down significantly. And speaking of money, professionally, this might be a time where we're wanting to tailor our careers a little bit more. We're wanting to work on crafting the right scenarios for ourselves so that way we can advance in our career. So this could also be a time of developing the right types of skills so that way we're a little more niche in our career, allowing us to stand out. That way we're considered for our expertise. And in terms of additional incomes in this energy, it's a very careful energy, so it's not as if we're going to take big risk when it comes down to making a quick buck. If anything, we might be narrowing down our options rather than being the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, because we're ready to focus on someone that's going to feed us for the long haul. Of course, this brings me to the lower expression, as we always have anytime a planet changes signs. And just because this is an uncomfortable condition doesn't mean it's all bad or all good or anything like that. It just happens to have more snags lives than typical. And so one of the things with Virgo energy is it loves to sift through what's unsightly, which can veer on the unhealthy side. So you have this combined with Venus, and it translates into our dating lives. It translates into our relationships. It could translate into our jobs and career and anything to do with money. And so we can find ourselves sifting through things and being too picky. We can find ourselves being too disapproving or finding problems where there's not a problem because we need to scrutinize everything. And so that's one of the things to really be mindful about in this energy. Another thing we have to be aware of with that scrutinizing is it can turn into a passion project where we're wanting to buff the rough edges of someone's personality or the way they look, or just overall really just trying to fine tune the appearance or other issues that might be wrong with a partner or we think is wrong with a partner. So we can find ourselves in situations where we're trying to fix someone, and that can be very unhealthy to do, especially in relationships, overall in any relationship in your life, not just romantic. And so we have to be aware of that. Sometimes there are situations where the person is perfectly fine in this energy, and then there are situations where the person is not looking to help themselves in the moment. So it's something to be aware of with this, because it can be a slippery slope of getting in the trappings of turning another person into your fixer-upper project, which is never cool and very unsexy. You definitely don't want to be your partner's therapist. That really kills all the romance in a relationship or dating situation overall. And we need to be aware of being too hard on ourselves. Sometimes self-esteem in this energy can plummet and lead to overanalyzing ourselves. It could lead to a lot of toxic inner dialogue or feeling as though we have flaws that we don't have. There's a lot of perceived flaws that get inflated in this energy, leading to wanting to over-improve ourselves. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with upgrading your looks and polishing yourself up. However, it can veer on the very unhealthy side in this energy. So we just need to be aware of that, because these energies are going to be more pronounced as Venus is transiting through Virgo. But either way, there is a beneficial side to this energy. So as long as we're staying in balance, be a time to really get our act together in love, finances, and other scenarios in our lives that could use a nice pick-me-up. Just as Venus is entering Virgo, it's going to make a quincunx with Pluto that can show where we need to work on things we're not aware of in our relationships and finances. In other words, it could bring to our awareness toxic behavior that we really need to fix in our love lives and anything to do with our finances. Vibes like this make us aware of unconscious patterns that we've been repeating, and some of it is just self-sabotage or just unconstructive issues overall in our lives. With this being Venus, obviously our romantic relationships and finances. So with energy like this, it could bring to our awareness problems with jealousy, pettiness, a need to control other people, and other forms of manipulation in our romantic lives that really need to be cleaned up, and maybe we just didn't have the self-awareness to notice all of these things. On top of that, by Sunday we have more Venus transits. Venus is going to connect with Chiron in a way that promotes improving self-esteem. So it's an uncomfortable energy because it can make us think of past disappointment, rejection, and other scenarios in our love lives that have led to just feeling let down by others. So this can show us where we're breaking our own hearts and why we need to develop constructive patterns in our love lives, and also financial matters where we might have been too careless about or allowing others to take advantage. This could be a time to heal those parts of us that have engaged in self-sabotaging behavior. The 6th brings in an energy that can cause us to feel drowsier than typical, with the sun making a Sesquiquadrate to Neptune. Sometimes with this type of energy, it leads to sleepiness. So it could be a day of just feeling like we're just lethargic more than typical. This could be a day where we just don't feel motivated. It happens to be a very demotivating energy anyway, especially when it comes down to our ego and confidence, but it can really make us feel like we just need to take a nap. We need a break to ourselves. We need to recharge our batteries. It just tends to really zap energy levels overall. And with the confidence thing, we can feel demotivated. We can feel like we lack a sense of self. We can feel very aimless in this energy. So it may be a day where we're just wanting to just have a moment to ourselves and again, recharge our batteries and find ways to pick ourselves back up and feel more encouraged, and other ways to boost our confidence as well. Vibes like this also lead to feeling more sensitive to energies as well. So we might feel like we're picking up on other people's vibes more than typical. And sometimes when that happens, it's good to practice good spiritual hygiene. You know, our psychic energy is going to be a little higher this week, and intuition. And so it may be a time where you're feeling like a sponge and you're just more receptive to other people's vibes than you typically are. So try to do the best you can to ground your energy so you aren't picking up other people's stuff. As we get to the 7th, Jupiter is going to be involved in 2 alignments that are not like like the other. Jupiter is going to connect with Pluto in an alignment that it has not done since August 4th of 2015. This happens to be a sesquiquadrate with Jupiter and Pluto. And this is also happening as Jupiter is approaching the square to Saturn, which I will talk about once we get to that week of August when it starts its exact square to Saturn. But energy like this can be a bit harsh. There is some positive sides to channel to it, but for the most part, it can really elevate an exaggerated need for control in this energy. So an alignment like this is involving two slower moving celestial bodies, so we'll be feeling this one for weeks. These energies have been mounting for a while actually, but now that we're hitting that perfect sesquiquadrate with it, certain scenarios are going to be more pronounced than typical. Energy like this could really rev up confidence, which I feel is a good thing to have some elevated confidence. However, it can be problematic when you have Jupiter and Pluto together. One of the ways this can pronounce scenarios that are harsh in nature is it can rev up entitlement, greed, opportunistic behavior, avoidance, feeling like you're above others, and overall just arrogance for arrogance sake. So with energy like this, in these scenarios going on, we may deal with people who are reacting disproportionately if they don't get their way, resulting in some power struggle-y energy. Jupiter-Pluto alignments that are complex tend to bring up issues like this, and also it just accentuates those who want to throw their weight around, especially those who try to use their clout to absolve them of any responsibilities or to get favors. So there can be poor reactions because of that, but also it could be a time where people are just uncooperative. This could be a time where people are bending things to their will, or at least attempting to do all of these things I just mentioned. And why I say attempting is these actions can definitely happen. However, one of the good things with this energy is there tends to be backlash when people do those things. So in other words, this energy could be very karmic. So if people are throwing their weight around or acting as if they're above other people or doing things, because they have clout or wanting special favors and things like that, this can come back to kick them in the ass. So it's actually good in a lot of ways. Also, another thing with this, speaking of karmic stuff, energy like this tends to unearth things. You're dealing with Jupiter and you're dealing with Pluto. A Jupiter-Pluto combination tends to expose things in a big way, good, bad, or indifferent. But with Jupiter being in Gemini and Pluto being in Aquarius, this could expose some salacious gossip. This could expose things that weren't meant for other people's ears. It can suddenly expose unethical things when it comes down to groups or organizations. But overall, it's a time where we can see some unexpected things just coming to light all of a sudden. So expect this to be a period where people are really running their mouths and possibly speaking things unexpectedly or unexpectedly blurting out something that was not meant to be known. But on a positive note, if used constructively, we can use this to improve our lives. We can use it to release patterns that no longer serve us. This energy tends to cause a restless sort of thing to it, so we may find ourselves focusing on what needs to be upgraded in our lives and maybe breaking out of a stale, stalled period all of a sudden from this energy. So it does have its things. And, like I said, with the vibes on the graph, they just seem to contradict some of the transits. However, when we have harsh transits, and especially other transits of this nature, it tends to get us moving and taking action on what needs to be taken care of. Also, there's some luck about this too if used right, if it's used in the appropriate ways of doing things. So at least there's that. And again, these are slower moving celestial bodies, so we'll be feeling this for a few weeks, and it should definitely be interesting, some of the stuff that manifests because of this energy. Interestingly, we do have the sun making a sextile with Jupiter, which is a completely different vibe overall. And again, this is why we're seeing that good luck energy. This is why we're seeing that social energy and some of the other vibes that are going on through this week. Energy like this gives us this massive wave of cheerfulness, and we need that. Hopefully it mitigates some of this stuff with Pluto and that Sun Neptune stuff. Hopefully this is the day where we feel more like ourselves and more revived and upbeat. And generally with this type of energy, we tend to feel upbeat. And that's because of the fortunate vibe this offers. It brings in a joyous energy, allowing us to look forward to the future and be more optimistic and really just push past any hindrances that might be going on. We also feel an elevated sense of self in this energy too, which is great. With that Jupiter-Pluto situation, that may end up being problematic too. So do be careful and exercise caution when it comes down to taking risk. One of the things within this week entirely is the urge to take action and do something that we normally don't do is going to be more prevalent than it typically is. And so just exercise caution, because even though we have this lovely alignment, there's still that Pluto situation. So make sure you're taking the right types of risks that are going to lead to rewards rather than something that might be a get-rich-quick scheme and things like that. We do need to be aware of that with these energies blending together in this way. But overall, this is an energy that's going to get us into the mood to socialize. This is an energy that can give us the nudge needed to begin a spiritual journey or a self-improvement journey and more or less explore the spiritual sides of us and get joy out of that. The good vibes continue as we get to the 8th with Mercury making a conjunction with Venus. And even though this is a retrograde alignment, this still brings in some harmonious vibes. As a matter of fact, this energy may end up helping us in terms of reworking something when it comes down to our relationships, whether that's romantic, whether that's friendships or any other close relationships, or even financial affairs, because energy like this is about sweetening a deal and sweetening a situation and reaching some sort of agreement about something. So if there was some testy energy in some of our relationships, this could be a time to patch things up, or something to do with contracts where we're reaching an agreement with that. But either way, this is an energy about making concessions. And since we're going through a Mercury retrograde, we could be going back on anything that was going on through the shadow period to rework it so that way it ends up being more beneficial for both parties overall. Also, this is a very flirty energy and it puts a lot of charm in the air. So it could be a really amorous time where it just feels like people are laying it on thick, but it is genuine. But overall, we could feel more flattered than typical, get more compliments, feel as though we're getting validated healthily. And this could also just make conversations more pleasant over the next bunch of days. And we're going to need that because as we get to the 10th, the sun's going to make a quincunx with Saturn, which can put a gloomy tone in the air. A lot of the times with Sun-Saturn energy, it tends to create moments where we're just feeling a lot of self-doubt, we're feeling down, we're feeling demotivated in the energy. But this being a quincunx, this could be something where we're unknowingly undermining our own self-expression. So there may be things that we're doing that we're just not aware of. It's an unconscious thing and a pattern that we've been repeating. That's leading to stifling ourselves and zapping our confidence. Some of the ways we may also be undermining our own confidence is through looking for recognition for recognition's sake and trying to gain our confidence off of that, but more or less just not getting what we want and feeling let down, feeling like our ego is deflated in this energy. Or on the opposite end, we could have so much self-doubt that we're questioning what do we have to offer the world, and we have so much to offer, but we're not looking at ourselves from that lens. But we're also hoping to get that encouragement from other people that we are actually good at what we're good at. So energy like this is complex because it does show us where we need to work on getting validation from others, meaning basically we need to start self-validating ourselves. We need internal confidence rather than looking for it from outside sources. So yeah, what an interesting week yet again. And this summer has been anything but boring. These transits have been out of control and August is still going to carry that tone. So it won't disappoint in terms of seeing some weirder and more complex transits. Anyway, I hope you all have the best week ever. Later and see you in the next episode.